This is the Made for Success podcast, and this is Chris Widener, speaker and author of over 15 books, including the New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestseller, The Angel Inside. The Made for Success podcast will help you turn your potential into performance, succeed in every area of your life, and achieve your dreams. And now, enjoy the show.
My guest today is John Alston. John is an internationally known performance strategist whose programs have lifted the spirits of millions of people across the world. John is one of only 77 people to have earned the Certified Speaking Professional and CPAE Speaker Hall of Fame recognitions that honors excellence in professional speaking. As a keynote speaker and trainer, John masterfully uses humor, personal experience, and storytelling in helping people to become successful and a good person. His message is for people to celebrate life's journey through character, decency, and common sense. As well as being a speaker, trainer, and educator, John is also an author of 4 books, including Life is a Gift, Don't Trash It, and Stuff Happens, and Then You Fix It. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, something that we mentioned early on the introduction there is this idea about being successful and a good person. Some people think that there's a discrepancy between the two, but you say you can be successful and a good person. Tell us a little bit about that.
You can be a successfully bad person, too.
Yeah, okay.
Or a successful bad person.
So do people think that in order to, I mean, is this getting at that idea that in order to succeed, you got to kind of step on people? Or what's the principle behind that principle that you teach? You can be successful and good.
Well, I think a lot of people think in terms of getting what you want any way you have to by doing whatever you think is necessary without any regard for being ethical or considerate of others. And I'm a big stickler for doing what I think is good, right, decent, and appropriate. And it can be very challenging in these times. There are a lot of things that are distracting in our lives today and kind of will make people think that they have to do anything to get what they want. Mm-hmm. So my emphasis is on goodness and success through competence. So I guess what I do is I put an additional spin on what I talk about that adds to the notion that you can be a good human being and still get what you want.
So you go into corporations, but you also I know, and we're going to talk about it, you talk to teenagers a lot, and corporations and public seminars, those kinds of things. You do all that. But when you go into corporations, is that a message that you're finding is resonating within corporations with, you know, being in the age of Enron and WorldCom and all that? Are people wanting to know more about that?
Well, I think the big thing is to get people to live their values, to be congruent, and at the same time know that, it's easy to get distracted. It's easy to get pulled off track. And a lot of times people just need reminders. And sometimes I'm not talking about criminal activities as much as I'm talking about just being decent and considerate. There's something about being a nice guy. Mm-hmm. There's something to that. And at the same time, it's attractive. It brings people to you. I mean, I'm sure you've had occasions where you've had bad customer service. I think a lot of times, people just go off the rails a little bit because under tension, what happens, they forget about what is maybe the right thing to do or what would be appropriate, and they're only thinking about themselves at the moment. So I try to spend some time in getting people to glom on to the idea that there is a benefit really to being nice. It makes you more attractive, and when you're more attractive, it draws people to you. If it draws people to you, it increases your business.
So you help people, if you went to the average person and said, should we be nice? And everybody say, well, yeah, we should be nice. But then you're saying that in the sort of the heat of the battle, when they're doing work and living life, that they don't necessarily always live out those values. And your job is to help them bridge that? Well,
I think what happens is that we need reminders consistently. It's easy to be slovenly. It's easy to be disorderly. It's easy to be loud and inconsiderate. It's easy. You know, I'm sure many people have had the experience where you go to a theater and somebody's behind you talking on their cell phone, or they just have no regard for others. That's on the personal level. I guess on the corporate level, we're talking about how you run your business and how you work with people. And that affects your leadership persona. You know, my thing is it's nice to be nice.
So you have your master's degree in counseling psychology.
Indeed.
What do you study? Well, first of all, tell me where you got it. And then what do you study when you're studying counseling psychology?
Oh, well, I got it at California State University at Hayward, and when you're studying counseling psychology, they take you through the whole curriculum that's necessary for understanding human dynamics and talking to people, working with people, some statistics, things like that. But that was such a long time ago that I did that. Much of what I do now is more involved in working with people, and I use some of those skills that I learned in my training, but by and large, my emphasis is in helping people to turn their lives around.
But it uses the psychological principles.
Some of them I think are basically common sense. And I think a lot of times people need reminders of what those things are. I think everybody has a worldview, and with the worldview that you hold, that is the thing that drives your life. Some people have a worldview that kind of turns them inward and becomes destructive. I'm looking at it in a worldview that would have someone turn inward and be creative, productive, and to go forth in the world and make a difference.
Explain what a worldview is, because a worldview is kind of one of those words that we hear a lot, and I wonder how many people actually know what it is. So what is a worldview? Well,
my worldview includes looking at three things: reality, human nature, and the human condition. And I think when you look at the human condition, it changes. Over time, the human condition has changed throughout the time that humanity's been on the planet. And I think to be able to look at each situation, where you are in any given time and place, what's happening today in the world is a lot different than what's happening, say, in the 1930s. So the human condition consistently changes. Human nature pretty much stays the same. There are some things that human beings will do no matter where they are, in any culture, in any environment. There are some things that are about human nature that you can pretty much count on. Like, people like to think about themselves. People are more concerned about having what they want with regard to their happiness. There are certain things that they do consistently. People tend to believe what they want to believe in spite of what the facts are. There are a number of things that I try to identify that I think are part of human nature. And so
tell me about those. What do you try to identify when you're working with people?
Well, I'm always being observant. For example, you're married, right?
I am.
You like when your wife tells you what to do?
Not very often.
Right.
Every now and then, like if tell me what time to be someplace,
right,
I like that, but no, not
I think
generally.
What I constantly do is I'm constantly looking for the things, and I line them up. I have a number of them that I look at that you can always count on that people will certainly do. For example, you ever tried to change anybody?
Yeah.
Kids. How did it work for you?
Didn't work for you.
Didn't work at all. And one of the things you will find is the more you try, what happens?
The more they rebel.
The more they resist.
Yeah, sure.
So if you understand that and know that about human nature, then what you will do, instead of trying to change somebody, is know that you can influence people, but you can't always change them. And the only real person you can change is yourself. So to understand that, I think, is important. And the third aspect of having a worldview has to do with reality and what I think are principles that govern life in its largest sense. What I always do is look at what is life asking of us? What are we supposed to be doing in this life? How do we do it? Find our purpose, our meaning. Those kind of things fit into dealing with reality as it is. One of the aspects of reality you can count on is things change, and at the same time things stay the same. As our world is expanding, it's also shrinking. We deal with paradoxes. That's one of the paradoxes. I think it's important to find a sense of balance and to realize that in order to stay balanced, there are certain things that you have to do. I work with people on looking at how they think about things. I look at helping people grasp the skills and techniques for moving through life, and I help people embrace a way of understanding the facts of life. As an example, when I work with youngsters, one of the things I tell them is you're going to do better with education than you will without it. And that's a fact of life. Sure. It's inescapable. And there are a lot of facts of life that I am constantly trying to identify. I mean, there's so many things that one could identify as the facts of life. But what I do is, in my presentations, I'm constantly looking at what's appropriate for this particular group and what is it that I might be able to share in the amount of time that I have that will help them put it all together. As Francis Bacon said, knowledge is power. Well, knowledge has really three components: facts, skills and techniques, and thinking. And there are facts of life that are inescapable. There's skills and techniques that must be practiced and developed, and there's a way of thinking that drives it all. And the greatest demand that life makes on us is to grow. And growth means change. And the engine for growth is learning. And the thing that fuels the engine is thinking. Yeah. So
now,
I work with that.
You mentioned purpose a little bit earlier.
Yes.
And purpose has been big. It's been... pop culture has taken it as their latest fad. Best-selling books.
Right.
I think one was called What is My Purpose? Other was Purpose-Driven Life. People are beginning to think about meaning and purpose, and of course they always have. But number one, why do you suppose that's true, that people are more aware of this idea of purpose lately? And then how can we go about finding our purpose?
Well, I think what happens is life has greater meaning for individuals when they do have a sense of purpose. Other than that, it's just like I'm going through the routine. Why am I doing this? I get up, I go to work, I come home, I go to bed. Get up, go to work, come home, go to bed. You get into a routine, or you get up, go to school, come home, go to bed. At some point, you start to ask, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
What's the point of my life? And really, what we've been taught in our culture is to look outside. The notion is if I get certain things, then I will have more value and things will be more meaningful and life will be more pleasant for me. And I think that's one of the things we find in all cultures. Everybody is looking for the way to find meaning in their life. Mm-hmm. So purpose, having a sense of purpose is something that is important for establishing meaning and giving you some sense of value about yourself. The thing that we have tended to do in our culture, or in many cultures, and certainly the one which I was raised in particular, we look to have things. Mm-hmm. We look to have a lot of friends. We look to have a lot of things outside of us. And what happens is you don't get your purpose that way. The real purpose is inside of you, and it can come out of you once you discover, take an inventory of kind of like what it is that moves you in life. And once you get clear about that, I mean, you won't even think about drugs. You won't even think about looking for ways to deaden your sense of reality, because you're so enamored and attached to and clear about your purpose that if you died tomorrow, it'd be okay.
So do you think there's a general purpose for all of humanity and then a specific purpose for each individual? General being something like live by the golden rule, give to others, do unto others, and then a specific like some are singers, some are speakers, some are mechanical. Is there a difference?
Well, why can't you be a singer and live by the golden rule?
Well, I'm saying is there a general one that covers all of them, but then each person has an individual one as well?
You may be speaking in terms of what we might say are truths.
Yeah.
There are personal truths that people hold. Mm-hmm. And there are truths that might be universal, enduring, and cannot ever be changed, and that's the way they are. It's like gravity. Mm-hmm. Gravity, no matter what you do, gravity's going to be there. Mm-hmm. You can count on it. It'll always, it'll never let you down. Gravity will be there. Mm-hmm. At the same time, there are truths that we discover. For example, you and I have different experiences of life. Yeah. You've been through certain things. I've been through certain things, and based on that, we have our own truths about how we see reality, how we perceive the world, and how we think things are.
And that gets down to worldviews again, right?
It's all part of it.
You perceive the world one way, I perceive it another.
Exactly. That's part of it, I think. But the thing that's important, though, is to really get clear about the fact that the only reason we do anything is for the experience. Because experience is the, what?
Spice of life.
Best teacher?
Yeah, best teacher, yeah.
It's the only teacher.
Yeah.
And some experiences you get directly, some you get through others and watching what they have done. And you get them from people who have been great leaders, or you get them from people who have been mentors, and sometimes you can avoid certain painful experiences by having listened and learned to other people. Yeah. But experience is a thing we're looking for. When you get married, you're looking for the experience of being married. When you have children, you're looking for the experience of being a parent. If you go to be a physician, you want to have the experience of helping people in a healing way. Somebody becomes a minister, a priest, a rabbi. They're looking for a certain experience that's going to add to the meaning in their life, the depth of their life. And that gets to the whole idea of what's my purpose? And that answer resides in you. All of us have had a range of experiences that enables us to get in touch with what is really meaningful to us. And once you find out what is really meaningful to you, to Chris or to whoever's watching, once you find out what's really meaningful to you and you stay on that, nothing can stop you.
Let's take a 20-second break to thank our sponsor, Made for Success Publishing. For listeners of this show, visit madeforsuccess.com/podcast and enjoy half off of the world's most popular personal development audiobooks. Use coupon code SUCCESS at checkout for a 50% savings. Now, back to the Made for Success podcast show.
Does your purpose unfold, do you think, as time and age come along? Is it one singular purpose that unfolds and broadens, or do we have different purposes at different times?
That's a good question. I think maybe at different points in your life, what is meaningful may change, but I think it is evolutionary in the sense that when you are 11 years old, things have more meaning to you, and you move through life and become 18, you've acquired some other experiences that make you think that more and different things are important to you. So I know I'm different now than I was when I was 25. That's why, for a lot of people, I think that it's better to wait to do certain things in your life till you're older because you have more experience and you can reframe it differently. Like becoming a parent, to me, I wasn't ready to be a parent at 19. I needed to have other experiences. I needed to know what life was about. I mean, I knew nothing as far as a lot of things are concerned. Yeah. So my purpose at that point was to have a car and cruise with the guys and get through college and football, and I was thinking about different things. Yeah. So what I was really influenced by and interested in, it did change. So it is evolutionary in a sense over time. So I think at different stages of your life, things become more important. Mm-hmm. I think as you get toward the end of your life, whoever that may be, or at least get a kind of perspective, it's kind of like eating a bowl of ice cream, and you're eating every bite, and you get down to that last bite, and you're just going to save that last bite, and you get distracted, and you drop it on the floor, And he's like, oh, man.
Then I just get another bowl.
Yeah, right. But in life, I don't know why you do that.
Yeah, you can't go get another bowl. That's where the analogy breaks down.
Right. That's why a lot of people on their deathbed are looking and say, gosh, I wish I'd done this, or I wish I'd taken more risk, or I wish I had been nicer, or if I, maybe laughed more, because now it's getting down to that last bite, and they're looking at it differently. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying look at it differently every day, because there are no guarantees. On September 10th, people thought it was just going to be another day on September the 11th. They went home, they went to bed, and they got up, and the next day everything was different. Yeah. So things change in an instant. So I'm always wanting to help people in their worldview keep in mind that you wake up every day is an opportunity, that you're going through life every day. That has to be part of your philosophy. Part of your philosophy is that any given day, at any moment, anything can change. And it does. There are people that think a red light is a suggestion, and there you are.
Or the yellow means go faster.
Yeah, I mean, we had a young man just killed in an automobile the other day as the plane missed the runway. He was 6 years old. So what do? What you do is you try to keep a perspective on reality. Now, if you know that anything can happen at any given moment, then live fully on purpose every day.
Yeah. What is your purpose? Tell me when somebody says, John, what are you about? What's the reason you're here today doing what you do? What's your purpose?
My purpose is to help you and anybody else achieve what they want and change their life instantly. And I'm committed to that.
Now, you told me that on the car ride over here.
Yes.
We talked about that. And we were joking about, some people have the 90 days to life change, 30-day, 7-day, instantly.
Instantly.
That's a pretty big, task.
It is.
Tell me about that.
You change your mind.
Okay.
You make a decision right here, right now. This is it. I've had it. I'm doing this. And it changes instantly. And then you have to live accordingly. You become congruent.
Give me an example, or a couple of examples.
Well, do you know anybody that stopped smoking in a day? They said, I'm not doing this anymore?
I suppose when you finally stop, you've stopped in one day.
Yeah, no, I mean, somebody said, I'm not doing this again.
Yeah, I mean, a couple.
Yeah, I've worked with a friend, a coach of mine who's worked with youngsters who are involved in drugs and what have you, and he's gotten them to the point where he says, I'm not doing this anymore. This is it. Today is it. I'm finished. And people do.
You mean because he tells them that he's finished with it?
They find their purpose. They get really clear about why they're here. Their purpose is not to get loaded. Their purpose is not to deaden the pain in your life. One of our biggest enemies is comfort. You get too comfortable, you don't do anything. Yeah. So sometimes discomfort is the thing that moves you off of a position. Discomfort is the thing that gets you to move on. Being poor is discomfort. Get out of there. Let's do something about it. Being ignorant, there's discomfort. Let's get up. Let's go do something about it. Having a sense that you have no talent at doing anything. Let's start to explore. Let's find out what those things are. Let's find out what really captures your interest. What gets you? Let's get on to that purpose and be about that now. And in doing that, when you make that decision, instantly you say, okay, now, so let's get your mission and your vision clear, and let's be about that.
Okay, so we got people who are watching today, and vast array of people. Right. And some need to stop smoking, some need to lose weight, all the typicals, right? But then there's other people involved in harder things and harsher things and stuff like that. And they're sitting there, and they say, okay, I'm watching, I believe it, I hear it, I want to do it. What do they do? I mean, is it just a matter of changing the thoughts? I mean, what's the process? What do they do?
Well, one of the things is to really make an inventory of what moves you. Between two extremes in life, goosebumps and rage. There's something that really moves you. What is it? You know, if you think about this, you know, a guy that works with me is a coach. I have a coach, and I think a lot of things that you achieve in your life, sometimes you need to have a coach. And he shared this with me, this whole notion of that at one extreme of your life, you know, there have been things that have touched you and moved you. And at the other extreme, there are things that moved you in other ways, you know.
So is it as simple as transitioning your energy from focusing on this to focusing on this, and the other falls by the wayside?
The first step is to get clear about who and what you are. The first step is to get clear about what it is that drives you. You know, what makes Chris do what Chris does. You know, Socrates says, know thyself. The first thing you have to do is know yourself. And once you know what it is that moves you, because I think everybody comes into the world with their own sense of something that is important to them.
Yeah.
Right? And you know, the demand life makes on us is to grow. That means to expand, constantly expand, and you never stop. A lot of people think of life as a journey. I think of it as an expansion, constant expansion. It's like in quantum physics. The universe is constantly expanding. There's constantly things happen. It never stops. And at some point, what you have to do is get absolutely clear about your purpose. Is part of it is to grow. It never stops. And sometimes you have to be uncomfortable to get started.
Tell me about this happening to you. When was it? Was it 22, 32? Did you just all of a sudden, what was the process in which you became clear?
Well, it's still happening. I'm working to get greater clarity all the time.
Right.
No one knows it all.
Right.
But at one point, there was a turning point in my life where I found myself, business had failed. This is like in 1977 when I started again. Had to start over again. I found myself walking down what was called Blood Alley in San Jose, California, and with the clothes on my back. And I had to start over. And I said, I don't know what I want, but this ain't it, you know? And so I started to work on things. The only thing to save me was the FBI.
How did that happen?
Friends, belief, and initiative.
Maybe they knocked on your door and flipped the badge.
No, friends. I think, you know, one of the things I tell people, no one makes it alone.
Yeah.
You got to have friends, and friends really saved me. I had somebody to help me get started again, jumpstart my life. Relatives that believed in me, relatives that were there. I had the belief that this is temporary. I'm not going to stay in this spot. This is it. I'm moving on. I'm going to expand and keep working on this. And initiative, you got to get up every morning. You got to get started. And what I do, I get up 4:30 every day now. You know, that's when I get most of the work done. That's when I get a lot of my contemplation, meditation, and prayer done. That's when I get a lot of things done. It's early in the morning. Get out, exercise, and the day starts early for me, and I love it. It's silent. It's cool. There's no distractions, and it gives me time to clear out my mind.
Now, you mentioned beliefs, and viewers who watch the show regularly will notice that this is something I always come back on, because I really believe it's so key, and yet it's something I'm still grappling with. How does this work? Somebody believes, it's their belief about themselves that I'm poor, or I'm no good, or I am fill in the blank.
Right.
How do you change that belief about yourself? How does that happen?
Well, first off, you say I'm poor. I mean, it may be that you are.
No, people, people say that about themselves.
But to get out of that, the first thing you want to do is begin to affirm that I am growing, I'm developing, and I have a vision for something beyond this. And beliefs are very funny, because I found people do believe what they want to believe in spite of what the facts are a lot of times. A lot of people believe that they're not capable of moving from a certain position in life. A lot of people believe that they can't make friends. And if you believe that, you will focus on that and put the energy there, and what happens is it manifests itself that way, you know? The thing that I say is energy runs the world. And wherever you direct your energy, it changes things just that way. It'll manifest that way. If the belief is I'm poor and you keep putting energy into that, you will stay in that position. If you say I can do this, I can move up out of this, put energy there, you begin to do that.
So is it a matter, this is where I wonder if it's this chicken before the egg thing. Is it a matter of saying I can grow, I can change, I can develop wealth, whatever, taking the
It's not
the
enough
poverty.
to say that.
So it's not just the thought. So saying those won't change your belief. How does that? That's what I'm trying to always nail down.
There are a couple of things.
Okay.
Number one, saying that I'm going to change, it helps us to change to what?
Okay.
You have to have a vision of where you want to go.
Okay.
Number 2, I think it's important to surround yourself with people who believe in you, believe in possibility, and are with you. You know, you can do bad by yourself. You don't need to hang around anybody that's going to help you do bad.
Yeah, right.
So the thing is, you move out of that and you get around people who believe in you. There are books to read. There are tapes to listen to. There are places to go. And you have to be willing and allow yourself to take in things. It's like you give yourself an allowance, you know? And the allowance is, I'm allowing myself the good things. Right now, if I keep focusing on this, it grows, it develops, it becomes a sore, it festers if you constantly focus on the worst side, the underbelly of life, as I call it. So one of the things that I say is to fill your mind with good ideas, fill your mind with possibilities. I say the achievement of anything begins with the idea that it's possible.
So listening to good things, reading good books.
Listening, reading, associating with people who are doing things. In a world such as this, there's unlimited opportunities. There's so many things out here to which you can like associate and connect with that will help you grow. You know, I was listening to an interview on the radio the other day, and a young man was talking about how the only thing he could do was get into crime. And the commentator says, that's the only thing you could do? There was no one ever around you who could tell you that there's more out here for you? And he said, well, yeah, there was some. He said, the problem is you didn't listen. You have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to say, look, there are people out there who are willing to help anybody who wants to be anything. It said, success of many friends and failure dies an orphan, right? So what you want to do is at least be on track to get started. Do something. And you can, the way you deal with the confusion and the chaos is you focus on one thing. Start with one thing. And the one thing you can start with is the idea that anything is possible in a universe of unlimited possibilities, and it's possible. If other people have moved out of this position, so can I.
My mom used to take me into bookstores, and she would say, look at all these books. And she would say, if those people can write a book, you can write a book. You know, and I love my mom for what she did on many of those occasions. You know, she said, look at these people. They can write it, you can write it. But that gave me that belief.
Well, good. Look at anything.
Yeah.
I mean, look at automobiles. Somebody had to think that up. The chairs we're sitting on, someone had to think it up. The suit that you're wearing, somebody had to think it up. The sound system that that we're using here, the television, somebody thought it up. The lights. So you go outside. There are landscaping. There are beautifully developed buildings. There are just fence posts. Whoever thought of it? You know, windows, glass. I mean, also somebody thought it up. But it starts in how you think. I mean, the possibilities are unlimited. People thought of iPods, and people thought of, well, when the guy invented the Sony Walkman, people said, who's going to buy that? Well, there wasn't a market, but he created a market for it. Now you go on a school bus and kids aren't making a lot of noise. They're all sitting there doing like this.
Right, exactly.
Because they're all wearing headsets and iPods. Somebody thought it up. And, you know, the power of an idea is enormous. So part of the worldview is that if you have ideas, you're wealthy. You're unlimited possibilities just with ideas. So nurture the ideas and know that you can cultivate those.
Thanks for listening to the Made for Success podcast. Get to know us at madeforsuccess.com/podcast. Meet the hosts of the Made for Success podcast and pick up a free copy of the Totally Motivated ebook by Chris Widener. We will see you next time on the Made for Success podcast.